appreciate getting invited out today. I said, a couple things. First off, as soon as there were these magic posters going up, I got these random texts from friends. I'm like, look at you. I didn't know that was happening, nor did I know I'd be recorded in any way. I would have been a little cuter had I known that, perhaps. But also, there's free food, so I was hoping there'd be at least like 3 people to share pizza with, so fantastic. I appreciate you coming here. It's rad to take advantage of things like this, so I encourage you to keep showing up, and we'll talk a little bit about how to be engaged with things like that too. So the context of this conversation we're going to have today is networking. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of my experiences that I've learned from networking. Now, this is the networking gospel according to Jessica. So there will be all kinds of different things I'm sure you've learned and will learn along the way throughout your careers, and I continue to do so. So this by no means is like this is it. These are just some things I've learned, some stories and experiences I've had. I prefer things to be interactive. We'll have some activities if we have time for it, but we'll do most of the questions if you have anything at the end. But if you have something burning or some great idea, feel free to pipe in. So I'm pretty informal person, so I'm just thrilled to be here. I work in a graduate student environment. It's very different with undergraduates. The energy is different, so I love to be on this campus. I love being here in general. Speaking of which, so I brought a couple things to give away. Just little things, don't get too excited. You already got pizza. That's enough, right? That's why I'm here. What color do we wear on Wednesday?
Green.
Okay. That was the first question I needed answered. And you with my awesome houndstooth jacket. Okay. So I'll talk to you about the fist bumps and fashion faux pas along the way. That's just kind of part of this process, but we'll see if this works okay. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why we network. I have heard many people say, "Well, that's not important. I'll just post my job and submit my resume." And so we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about building your network. We're going to talk about being prepared. There's some other important stuff thrown in there. We're going to talk about radness, which is like the ultimate critical thing of networking. Pitfalls and possibilities, an activity if we have time, then we'll do some wrap up. Okay, so why network? There's a lot of reasons to network. It's not just about I want to find a job or I need something from someone. A lot of people only think about the side of taking from networking. And so you can use networking. You can find others with common interests. You can find information or solve problems. I'm not talking about Google being your networking. Okay, so other people have different experiences, and when you engage them, you can solve your problems. Yes, you can find a job or obtain a promotion. You can gain career insight. Find service providers or customers. A lot of the world I work in, I'm on a lot of different boards, chamber board and higher ed boards and that kind of stuff. It's surprising how many connections you can make that you serve them and they serve you. And so helping others is a very critical part of networking. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Making a friend. I think that's great. Now these days, sometimes you're to the point where you say, I've reached my friend quota. I have an adequate quantity of friends. I have 900 Facebook friends. I'm fantastic. You don't know who you don't know. And that's a point that we'll talk about a lot too, is you don't know who you don't know. So lots of great reasons to do networking. I'll give you a few examples in different contexts about why we use that for different situations. Building your network. Okay, so one of the scariest things is just that networking is scary. Meeting new people is scary. The concept of meeting people is scary. It's something that most people feel. In this room, how many of you would say you are totally comfortable being in an environment of strangers? Anyone totally comfortable? Okay, so we got a few. That doesn't surprise me at all. Most people are not. So you need to acknowledge, you are afraid just like most people are afraid. In fact, I would say the 4 or 5 that raise their hands are the outliers. They're the ones who are a little different in this world. I would not have raised my hand. I'm not comfortable with being around every kind of person there is, or being thrown into whatever situation, whether it's political or academic or business. You don't know what's going to happen. So one of the things I like to talk about is finding or faking your courage. This is a fake it or make it world. This networking concept, most people just have to fake it until you are comfortable. And just like public speaking, the more you try it, the easier it is to do. So worst case scenarios. It is so much better if you can address worst case scenarios and deal with what would happen in that, rather than just quake about, oh my gosh, what could happen. So these are all things that I've done. And I'll give you some specifics that Sherry's actually heard a couple of them. So saying something humiliating or accidentally insulting someone. Anybody done that before besides me? Heck yes. All the time we do it. But the good news is most people don't remember it as often as you think they do. And guess what? That person has done it before too. So you just have to say, okay, stupid stuff falls out of my mouth all the time. It's going to happen. I can't control it all the time. Just got to roll with it. Not having anything to contribute or awkward silence. This is me with my in-laws. So I'm being recorded. I don't know how wise this is. We like to sit in a circle and stare at each other. It's just a thing. I don't know why it happens that way. But that awkward silence is almost painful. That's one of the things that drives me the most crazy. Like you're thrown into a networking group. Nobody knows each other. You're sitting at a round table at lunch and you're just like, I'm going to check my phone again. It happens all the time. Everybody else feels just as awkward. So you just got to own it. Work with it. Forgetting names. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, hey, right? You can get away with that almost all the time. It's even worse if you actually call them the wrong name. So just keep a good hey in your pocket all the time. It's fantastic. We all do it though. You got to acknowledge that this happens to everyone. You're not unique about any of it. Something getting stuck in your teeth or the giant zit on your nose. Totally woke up with a giant zit on my nose this morning. Thought it was a poignant example and on purpose. I had typed that in advance, so I thought, fantastic. I am a walking example of this. I have stuff stuck in my teeth. I have done presentations with my fly down. It is what it is. I got Prego pants on now, so there's no fly. So I don't feel like I have to check it, although I kind of, okay, never mind. So that stuff happens, and it's really not a big deal. I mean, can you think of the last person you talked to who had something stuck in their teeth? Probably not. It's not something that's significant enough for you to even remember that. Although you know you're walking around talking to people with stinky breath and stuff that's stuck in their teeth all day long, right? So nobody's going to remember that about you either. Clothing malfunction. This is a winner. Literally 1 year ago, today this happened. It's on my Facebook, like memories. Okay. So I was kind of chuckling to myself because I have this thing, I call it the 3 things of the devil, and that's my thing on Facebook. It's 3 things that kind of suck, and mostly it's sarcastic. But so this happened. I was presenting at a big national conference in Indianapolis last year, and my day was terrible, traveling from here to there. The air conditioning was broken on the plane. I'm just dripping with sweat. I was sitting by stinky people, and then there was a coughing kid over here. I mean, it was just gross. And then my flight was delayed. So I had to stop over in Chicago. Never want to fly out of there. And we loaded the next flight, which I had to run to, mind you. I'm running, holding my clothes. I'm freaking out. I'm going to miss my flight. It's going to be terrible. And it's like 9 o'clock at night. It's been a crappy day already. Then we sit on the tarmac for 2 hours. They trapped us in this other hot plane for 2 hours. And I'm just thinking, this is the end of the world. What? This is the worst thing. I'm never traveling again. I hate it. And, which isn't true. I love traveling. The shark thing was a scuba diving reference, but most of this has nothing to do with that. It's just fun. So we get on the plane. I actually finally make it to Indianapolis. Hours late. It's midnight. I haven't been to where I'm going before. I go down to catch a cab, and I'm really cheap. So I'm like, hey, anybody want to share a cab with me? I'm yelling to this random line of people, thinking they're all nerdy academics like I am, which they were. And one lady says, hey, I'm going to the downtown Marriott. I say, hey, let's share a cab. Fantastic. We split a cab. Come to find out, she is this dean at Vanderbilt. And she's this power woman, and she is a dean of a relevant topic to me. I'm like, rad. Networking at 12:05 in a cab. I'm going to do it. I'm just dripping. It's just not okay. So we talked, and it was fantastic. And we talked about things we could do together at different institutions, and she wanted to get together and ask me for drinks, and I played the Utah card, but whatever. So my hotel was first, and it's 12:30 at this point. I am pooped. She is pooped, but we've bonded. And so I get out of the car, we exchange contact information, and I stand up, and my skirt flat out hits the ground. Like full on. It was one of those maxi skirts, that are kind of stretchy, and I spent the day like sweating it up and like running around. So this skirt, not even like halfway, and she sees this and is looking out of this minivan, and I said, well, I wanted to be memorable. And I was so cool at that moment. And so, needless to say, the world didn't end. And actually, I felt we were pretty entertained by that. Because she was, she got it. It was a long day. The Marriott valets were less entertained than were we, but it is what it is. So this stuff happens, and it didn't ruin anything, but had I been, 10 or 15 years younger, it would have just mortified me. Oh my gosh, my reputation is ruined. That's going on social media. That's going to, No, people don't care. People don't care. You can lose clothing and people don't care. Unless it's during a Super Bowl, in which case there are consequences. But in this situation, it was not a big deal. So I doubt many people will experience that, although the fly down happens all the time. The stuff in the teeth, the big zit, whatever. Nobody cares. There's no way she would have remembered this. So anyhow, this was one of those situations. Stuff happens. Just know it's going to happen and that nobody gives a crap about it. It's kind of what I say about public speaking is who cares what you say? No one listens. Right? I don't know if you go to church or anything. Nobody's hearing that. So I'm here for the free pizza. So as long as you don't worry about it, as long as you can address your anxieties in advance, the concept of networking becomes so much easier because worst case is not a big deal. So I have learned that many times. I have many more examples. That was such a good one. But I'm an introvert. What am I going to do about that? I can't network. I hear this all the time. Well, guess what? I'm an introvert. Most people don't, when I have that conversation, they're, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm paid to be an extrovert. It's fantastic. Get that job. So, I go home and I curl up into a fetal position and lock my door and I'm like, leave me alone. But that's because you've had to have the face all day and you've had to interact with people. And I love people. I'm fascinated with people. Everybody has a great story and I learn things from people. But even if you're an introvert, well, anybody can get overwhelmed by it. But an introvert, you just have to address things in a little bit of a different way. And so when I talk to a lot of introverts about it, we talk about, okay, let's deal with your social anxiety, or you want to avoid small talk because how awkward, how long can I talk about the weather? I don't know. Again, know that most people feel like that. I thought it was hilarious that there's literally a shyness research institute at Indiana University. And half of the people that they study claim they have this issue. So again, you're not alone. You just have to practice. And as long as you're prepared about that, you'll be just fine. So you just kind of have to own it a little bit. Okay, finding or faking your courage. There's a few situations you can put yourself in that will make your life easier if you're trying to network and you're unsure of yourself or you're uncomfortable. One of those ways is to volunteer. So whether it's in your community, it's at your school, it's with your church, it's with a political organization, volunteering creates a structure that forces you into potentially uncomfortable situations. So the only choice you have to make is, will I volunteer? But then it forces you to attend meetings with strangers, it forces you to be in front of people. So volunteering is a fantastic way to deal with and increase your skills at networking or communicating with strangers, communicating with other people. So plus volunteering is fantastic. The community needs great volunteers. And there's so many opportunities for it. So if you're not volunteering in some way, do it. There are plenty of resources that give you to direct you to potential opportunities, including around campus. So do that. You can essentially just arrive early to events. So sometimes if you come in late, while it might be strategic, I'm making my entrance. You walk into an event that's full of a bajillion people. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Can I zero in on the one person that's already my friend and go over to them? But if you come early where there aren't very many people, yet you're the one who's setting the stage, they'll start coming to you. It makes life a little easier just to be strategic about when you arrive at an event. So come early, it's less overwhelming. Bond with other wallflowers, that's pretty common. If you find other people just sort of checking their phone, that's kind of the most common thing right now. Just checking their phone. Go hang out with them because you know that they're insecure too. And so you immediately have something, and you can just drop a line like, oh, so it's tough to network in a place like this. That's kind of lame, don't say that. But find the wallflowers you know immediately you have something in common with. So make a friend with them. It's much easier. Okay, this is another preparation thing. Acknowledge you can leave if you get uncomfortable. So a lot of times you go to an event and it's like, oh crap, I have to be at this party. It's going to be 2 hours. Oh my gosh. Why? Why do you have to be there for 2 hours? Is that a false constraint you've put on yourself? Most likely it is. Now there are meetings and things that you need to say the whole time or you'll look really bad if you get up and walk out. I'm not advocating that. But in a social situation, more open housey, that kind of thing, tell yourself in advance, I can leave. Okay, I can leave. And that will sometimes alleviate some of the stress to know that you are in control of a potentially anxiety-inducing situation. And then be prepared, and I want to talk about that a little bit. There are a lot of things about being prepared. The positive attitude factor. So, again, this could be a fake it till you make it. A lot of people go into a networking situation and think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm going to fail. People are going to think I'm an idiot. And just get this great ball of negative, which is really pretty egocentric if you ask me. It's all about me, me, me. And a lot of networking can be about them. But if you have the positive attitude and you can focus on, okay, something's good going to happen. I'm going to meet a great connection. I'm going to get some great experience. This is just practice. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm just practicing. Then good things can happen. I want to tell you about a high school teacher I had whose name is Dr. Green. And Dr. Green was a chemistry teacher who was just a total punk. He had long hair, and he was like a heavy metal t-shirt wearing, even the chemistry joke one about the heavy metals. Have you seen that? Yeah. He would wear that like every day. But so he was totally non-traditional teacher, and that was awesome. But one of the things he did that really taught me a lot, and I've remembered it for a long time, is as many times as we stupid students were sitting in class and he'd give us a concept and we'd say, Dr. Green, can you repeat that? Which could be perceived as annoying if you have to do it 18 times. He would say, I'd love to. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter who asked him. It didn't matter if he'd already said it 18 times. And you knew that Dr. Green didn't really love to do that 18 times. But he never let you in on that secret. It was, I'd love to. So in my life, I've adopted a lot of that. I use the phrase, I'd love to, all the time, even if I'm like, that totally sucks. I'd love to. And then it's amazing what situations you can put yourself in that are advantageous. So consider practicing adopting that attitude of, I'd love to. Even if you wouldn't, sometimes you just fake it. So that works for me even now, and I appreciated his example. It was a positive attitude that he reflected for all of us as students, but then it has led to great opportunities in my own life. Okay, being prepared. One of the anxieties about networking is getting stuck. So you have someone who totally monopolizes your time. They're all like up in your grill, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, I need to talk to that person, I need to talk. And you don't know how to get out. Make sure you have a strategy. So there are kind ways to get away from people by saying, oh my gosh, it's been so great to spend time with you, but I promised that I would circulate. So I'll look forward to talking with you, but I need to go talk to them. So you can back yourself out. Sometimes getting trapped really creates that fear that you're getting stuck with someone in a really awkward situation or that you're not accomplishing a goal. And so just put it in your pocket that you have a way out of those situations. Or even if I've used it if they have bad breath. So that's not on my tip list, but watch the breath, man. That's a big deal with networking. So make sure you can back out of problem situations. And you can if you just memorize a simple phrase. Set a goal. This is particularly useful for introverts, where it causes you anxiety to be among that population of strangers. You can go in and say, okay, my goal, I'm going to meet 2 people. And you have a quota to meet, and that's it. And then it becomes a cognitive task. You are simply processing a task. I'm going to meet 2 people, or I'm going to meet 6 new people this semester, or I'm going to go to lunch with this group 3 times. So you can quantify it or you can qualify it. So quantity, like I'm saying, you're going to meet 4 people during an X period of time. Or with qualifications, you could say, what type of relationship? I'll find 2 people who share similar hobbies and 2 people who are well connected and give me great advice on X. There's no harm in setting a goal like that. You could set it each semester, each year. I like the semester chunk because a year becomes a little immeasurable and most people won't follow through on a goal over a year. But if each semester you set a networking goal or a relationship-related goal, it becomes easy to check off. And it's really fulfilling if you can say, hey, look what I achieved. I've stepped out of my shell, I've accomplished this, or I've exceeded it. So set goals for yourself. I still do that. Okay, being prepared. So we talked a little bit about those awkward silences. The best way to avoid awkward silences is to have questions. Questions you can ask anyone at any time in any situation because people love to talk about themselves. In general, not everybody. Some people just want to hide and they're mousy and overly humble or whatever. Don't be humble. Just ask questions. That's the strategy I use all the time, especially if the other person is not very conversational back to me. If they're not asking me any questions, then it's sort of like, okay. It becomes very uncomfortable. So if you have 3 questions that you just always can ask people, I will always ask, right now is perfect, have any holiday plans? There's no one and no situation that you can't ask that. Okay, I lied. Probably not for a funeral. Not so much networking occurs at a funeral though, right? So we're okay. But you have any holiday plans? Man, I'm looking forward to traveling. But man, if you had any money and any time, where would you go? People like to talk about themselves in that way, and it's unique and it becomes memorable. You're not asking the same question about their job. One of the networking flaws I run into is someone becomes defined by their job as opposed to by them as an individual. So it makes you a little unique if you talk to people about who they are, their hobbies, their interests, their travel plans, their family. So whatever questions you decide, just make sure you have 3 kind of general questions. They can be icebreaker type, really surfacey questions, but ultimately the purpose of this is so that you feel prepared and in control of that engagement you're having. So general questions, those are ones I put. Where would you go? Oh, we already talked about that. Where would you love to go if the time and money weren't a problem? What advice would you give a new college graduate? It's a fantastic question for you guys. What like old folks like me don't like to be like, well, let me tell you. Everybody loves giving advice. So that's a great question. It's a great icebreaker, especially if you're job hunting or even just building your network in general. What advice would you give? That people love to talk about that stuff. All right, the elevator pitch. I've sort of gotten so tired of this phrase. Everybody knows what an elevator pitch is, right? Kind of.
Did you accidentally bump into someone in the elevator?
Pretty much. So the idea behind an elevator pitch is you never know who you're going to run into in an elevator, and you have a limited time frame to make a maximum impact. And this happens. So I'll give you an example of this one. I talked to the president of the university the other day and said I was coming over here. And I said, tell me about a crappy experience you've had networking, because those are more fun to talk about the bad ones. So he said, okay, well, when I was 25 years ago, he was a physical therapist in the Navy, and he was going to a training course that was being held with this man who was revered, best manual therapist in the United States. But he'd never met him before, and of course, he couldn't just Google what he looked like. Different world back then. And so he found himself in an elevator. And this is a literal elevator example. So he was in the elevator, talked to this guy. Of course, we know it ends up being this teacher, but let's talk to this guy. Things are awkward. The other guy didn't really talk to him at all. So my boss goes, and they go get breakfast, and my boss says, can I come sit with you? Can I sit with you? Because he's seeing, he doesn't know anybody either. So they sit together, and the guy, eventually they get to introductions, and the dude introduces himself and says, I'm Dr. Paris. And my boss says, oh. And there's crickets. And it was so awkward, and he was explaining to me just the angst he felt and what he would have done differently if he were better prepared. He could have said, oh, I'm Dr. Nielsen, I'm here to take your class, I'm this, this, and this. Look forward to meeting, look forward to working with you, whatever. But he just was paralyzed by this guy. Well, in 25 years later, they're both presidents of different universities, and he's come a long way. But had he learned about the value of an elevator pitch, which it's such a cliche thing, oh, you have your elevator pitch ready, but it's so important. So you need to prepare that and think about what it is you want. Your elevator pitch will change over time. So you need to think about that. Now you'll always have, well, most likely you'll have a similar name, but you'll, as students right now, it doesn't always happen these days. You can change it. It might not even be the same gender for all we know. But the situation is, it just has to change with what your needs are in your life. So as you're considering your elevator pitches, make sure you consider introducing who you are, what you're looking for. As college students, that's also very important because what you're looking for might change. I'm looking for connections related to this, or I'm looking to grow my experience in this, or you almost want to put a call to action in that elevator pitch, and that's something I find missing in most people that I meet is if they would just share a little bit with me. So if I say I'm Jessica Egbert, I work at Rocky Mountain University, we're a post-professional graduate institution focused on affecting healthcare change. Would that be adequate for most? Yes. That's my business elevator pitch. But if I'm looking for something, I can throw in there, but I'm really interested in finding someone who knows about A, B, or C. Then you immediately can start a dialogue with them. And so your elevator pitch becomes so much more than just an introduction, but it becomes a conversation. It's a conversation about you and about that person. So try and include things that are really relevant to your interests and your needs. How am I doing? Okay. So I talked to you about Nielsen. That was Stanley Paris, who's the founder of University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences, was that guy he accidentally ran into. All right, other important stuff. This is my very, very concise heading for these ones. Some things to know as I've thought about this audience. I hear a lot of, oh, well, I'll start doing that when I'm looking for a job. I'll start networking. Right now, I'm just a student. I'm just trying to get my generals done. No. You're never just a student. You're never just getting your generals done. Any person in your path can be influential to your future. And it is what it is. You don't know who they know. You don't know who they are. And so you need to really consider that you are constantly building your network. You just are. Everybody you meet is part of your network. So the more people you meet, the more positive experiences they have and you have, the more opportunities you'll have down the road. So don't ever just wait. Now you can have, bad days where you just want to hide in the library and sleep or whatever. Been there, done that too. And that's okay. You don't have to be on every single day. But just be aware that what you're doing now is very, very useful, even if you're a freshman. You have plenty of years to go. Control your online reputation. This one drives me nuts. Whenever I see friends that have Facebook accounts or any accounts that are public, I just want to punch them in the face. So if every post you make has a little globe next to it, deal with it. Okay, because I guarantee you your employers are looking. I will cyber stalk everybody before they start. And I'm not alone. That's how the world works now. You are your online reputation. So be very careful about that. I'm not saying don't have a personality. In fact, have a personality. And we'll talk about that in a bit too. But your online reputation is so important. Employers know more about you before you start there than ever before in the history of time. So be wise about that. If you want to vent, if you want to gripe about stuff, do it to a closed circle of friends. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying just make sure you're wise about filtering the audience. So even me, I have different audiences. I have different Facebook lists. I've been very strategic about who sees what, and nothing is ever global unless it's about come to this event or whatever. So just watch for that. Don't be paranoid about it, but be wise. Get organized. It does no good for you to meet some great people and not remember who they are or not save their contact information. If you get somebody's contact information, put in your contacts list immediately. So what I usually do is I hoard business cards, and then once a week I'll just stick them all in my Outlook or my phone or wherever I'm keeping that particular type of contact. Just make sure you just load them in and be organized, or else you're missing an opportunity. Getting more involved. If you're not involved on campus, get involved. We talked about volunteering. You guys are here. That's fantastic. Be here. Why would you not come to an event with free pizza? Maybe it's because I was lame, but it's a pretty good crowd. So hey, free pizza. So go to stuff. Put yourself in places and create opportunities for yourself where you can meet those people. Get involved with organizations, political, social, nonprofit. There are always an organization that aligns with whatever are your aspirations. So great opportunities. Get involved off campus. There are great internship potentials. If you don't have an internship, there are great internship coordination going on at UVU. Whether it's paid or unpaid, not necessarily relevant unless you have personal needs, but it just creates new networks. There's so many things you can do, and not all of them have to take a ton of time. You just have to do it. Take that first step. Work your social network. So besides being careful, you can be effective. And that's something I don't always see either. And I did see a fantastic example of that this week. So last week was Physician Assistant Week nationwide. We have a physician assistant program. So we had our students, we said, hey, get engaged with the national organization, get engaged. So we had some students who went out and took like PA Week signs in their scrubs, and it was really cute. We had fun with it. But then they tweeted out, and they tweeted the National Association. They tweeted Mayor Curtis of Provo, because we're in Provo, and they got responses. You don't know where that'll go. So your social network is also networking. Don't forget, there's a reason why network is in there. You don't have to just physically meet people. You can create new connections by maximizing your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one, set it up. I don't use it for communication much, but I can tell you lots of people look at you there. But Twitter is very effective for making new connections. It just kind of works that way. So be strategic. Consciously think about tagging people or tweeting at people or using a hashtag that you can be found. So it's not just for chit chat with friends anymore. It's a business tool. Find resources in unexpected places. This one is tough because you don't want to go to your buddy and be like, what does your dad do? That's kind of an awkward situation. But why not? Find out who your friends know. You don't know who they know. So would your friend's father know somebody? Are they working at Adobe and you're looking forward to that? Are they a politician and you can make a connection with them? Are they a teacher and they can give you advice on, or a mentorship? So you have all kinds of resources around you that maybe you don't think about. Who do your friends know? Who are their parents? Who's in their church or in a community or a neighbor? Make sure to think about those things. All right, confidence. So lack of confidence is usually what breeds the biggest fear in networking, right? So a lot of you who didn't raise hands, it's sort of like, well, maybe I kind of suck and I'm not going to be good at that, and I'm an introvert and I don't have anything to give and nobody wants anything from me. We all feel that way sometimes, all of us. But you need to own the fact that each one of you as an individual, as a unique person, has something to give. You have knowledge, you have experience, you have perspectives, you have ideas. You are of value. What you have to share is worth something to someone. That is where you need to ground your confidence in. You matter, okay? And you will to other people. The problem is you may not believe it right now. And that's a fallacy. So if you're in that position where you're thinking, I don't have much to give, I don't have much to contribute, fake it till you make it. If at a minimum, hear the words I'm telling you, you have something to give, okay? That's critical for networking. Fake it until you can get there, until you believe that you have that value. But for now, it's okay to just listen to me and pretend that I know what I'm talking about, right? Fake it till you make it. People tell me that all the time, because sometimes I'll have those low self-esteem days where I'm like, I suck and I mess up and I don't ever say the right thing. And it takes sometimes a nice mentor of mine to say, no, you don't. So you were an idiot right then, but that's okay. In general, you're not. We try to tell it like it is. Be yourself and enjoy yourself. So the idea is to transition from a place of fear to a place of enjoyment, where you can be confident and have a good time and not worry about saying the right things, wearing the right things, looking the right way, all that stuff. And you'll get there with practice. Just how I didn't care. My skirt hit the floor. Yeah, I was embarrassed, but I knew it wasn't life-changing. It wasn't the end of the world. And I turned it into something fun. It is so important these days with networking to have a personality. We want you, in the business world particularly, I want you to be yourself. I don't want any automatons I want people who have personality. I talked to a high-ranking person at RMU the other day. I have a box of toys on my desk. They're like crappy kids' toys, like boomerangs and Rubik's Cubes and whatever. And I put them there for a reason. Although some people have been grumpy at me, like, that's unprofessional. Or my shirt, this was on purpose. Plus, it's cute. So somebody has complained about my box of toys. And I have said, most people are fine with it. Next time, bring in a box of Legos, never mind. Just to be a pill. But I want people to be disarmed by personality, because you can bulldoze and be a little intimidating if you're too assertive with any networking or any conversation style. And I've certainly been there, done that before too. So my box of toys or my funky shirt says a little more approachable. So have personality. Don't feel like you have to be boxed up and put on your perfect suit. Dress appropriately. Sherry would advise you to say dress appropriately, but be yourself. And again, that goes back to the confidence issue. Be confident that you are good, you are worthy, you are of value, and that will lead to enjoying yourself. I made a note, people bond over laughter and food. Those are like the top two things, right? You get together, and if you laugh or if you eat something delicious, it's memorable. So if you can't make them laugh, bring them a snack. Pizza. See? Winner. Okay, your student status is fantastic for right now, and you should milk it as much as you can. And this sort of goes along with the asking for advice situation. I'm a student. I just want to pick your brain. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions about, so those are easy ways to introduce conversations to anybody you come across with. I am a student, because that immediately puts them in a neutral position. So they know you don't want anything other than info. You're not trying to sell them something. They're not trying to sell you anything other than advice. So you're neutralizing this whole scenario by saying, I'm a student. Can I have some advice on this? Or what would you suggest? So as long as you can, own it. It's kind of like when you first get employed at a new job, you can play I call it the new guy card. Or if you do something totally dumb, you can be like, well, I'm the new guy. So be the student. And you can go far with that. Radness, most essential of all things. Amy knows that. I can't. Rad. I've been working on bringing the word rad back for like a decade. I think I've been pretty effective, but networking is such a great thing to practice to build your own radness and other people's radness, because it can be a very complementary process. If you're insecure, if you're not sure where you're rad, it's a great opportunity to talk about being rad, talk about other people being rad. So it's radness. You need to understand that most of these people don't know how rad you are. So you're still working on becoming confident in what skills you have and talents you have and the value you have. Most people won't know it just yet, but you don't understand theirs either. So you need to talk about radness. You need to talk about what you do well. Talk about what they do well. I love asking people things like, what are you most passionate about right now? And usually they'll say something like, oh, my family, and that can lead to talking about what they're awesome at. What skills they have that are related to family, or if they love their job. And then you can go down a place of positivity. So what we talked about earlier is your value. So you need to understand that networking isn't just for you, it's also for them. So when you go into a situation, again, it neutralizes the territory by saying, okay, wait a minute. I can get something from you, but you can get something from me. We're on the same ground. And it doesn't matter if they're the president of a company and you're a student. It doesn't matter. You have mutual information to share that could be valuable. And just make that assumption when you go into every opportunity, and that'll give you the confidence you need. Again, fake it till you make it if you have to, but you'll get there. Finding or faking your radness. This is very complicated. 1, exist. 2, see number 1. Okay? Everybody has stuff. You all have these great innate talents. Maybe you don't know exactly where yours are, but keep working on that. Is pretty much what I said is, as if you already know you have some great talents, then elevate those, acknowledge those. Be confident. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're arrogant. It means I am fantastic at organizing stuff. I can sort things into canvas bins like nobody's business. Okay? I'm rad at that. But you might be great at something else. So own it. Be proud of it. culturally around here, we see a lot of people, particularly women, minimizing their radness. Oh, you get a compliment, right, women? You get a compliment. Oh, man, you were a fantastic speaker today. Or, boy, you did a great job leading that meeting. Or, you did a fantastic job on that report. You sounded brilliant. Oh, no, I didn't. That also makes me want to punch you in the face, right? Yes. Well, yes, I did. I worked hard on that. Thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that. Let's particularly women, but also dudes, practice acknowledging a compliment. Okay, that's just so critical in this process. That acknowledges your radness. It builds confidence. Similarly, give a compliment. Don't be afraid to compliment people. They love it. You look fantastic. I love your houndstooth jacket. It's great. You look rad. You know, it's okay to give that. Don't harass people in a bad HR way or anything, but you don't have to deal with that quite as much. So just acknowledge people and their individual radness, okay? Pitfalls. A couple things I've experienced. So you have to understand networking is a two-phase process. The first phase is your initial meeting of someone, okay? We always form that first impression. So allow that to happen, but then allow yourself to discover character and competence, which may be contrary to that. I'll give you a great example. You know who Todd Peterson is from Vivint, right? He's dumped $1 bajillion into this joint. We love him. If you've ever met him, the guy will not wear a tie, like ever. He wears jeans, a Vivint hat. He looks like he's been mowing lawns all day, and he has $1 bajillion. So that says something about assumptions. He's one of the greatest philanthropists in our state, and yet you'd probably look at him and not assume that at all. So be wary. Don't fall into that pitfall of taking your initial impression and assuming it's fact. Try and make a good impression yourself, but allow people the opportunity to also do the same with you where they can lose an assumption, okay? Selling something versus building relationships. This is one of the most strategic things I would say. Again, back to the thing about just shoving a business card down someone's face. The most effective networking is a relationship. It's forming a connection where you know something about each other. It's not, I'm selling this to you and you're selling this to me, or it only works one way. It's knowing a little bit about who people are. It's appreciating their radness, okay? It's appreciating the value that everyone brings. So don't try and just, when you meet someone immediately, say, okay, let's see, what do you know? Who do you know? What can you do for me? Which happens all the time. Immediately, I guarantee my wall will go up. And I know a lot of people, and you don't want my wall to go up. And that's how you'll run into people. You don't know who people know. So you don't want to burn the bridge by being too aggressive and thinking only about yourself. Again, maybe they can learn from you too. So watch for the relationship. Be patient. Maybe you don't get the information you need day one, but maybe as you continue to engage and you build that relationship that's trusting, you'll get so much more out of it. So be patient with those relationships. We talked about business cards already. Don't just shove it down their throat. Business cards are still a valuable thing, a little old school, but they still matter. Of course, people just take them and go immediately load them into their contact list and chuck them, but that's okay. It's convenient. Take initiative. One of the greatest pitfalls I've discovered is people who don't bother to follow up. So you meet someone who you want to build, or with whom you want to build a relationship, shoot them an email. It's not hard. Send an email, say, fantastic to meet you. I look forward to knowing you better. That's it. You don't have to say anything other than that, but it demonstrates your initiative, it demonstrates follow-through, it demonstrates competence, it demonstrates, relationship building. That single 2-sentence email will do wonders for you. So make sure you do that. Okay, this is one of my favorite things. Let's see if it works. Let's see. That's sort of my philosophy is this concept of be the tortoise, not the hare. Now, it applies to a lot of aspects in life in general, but we are so not going there. That's like therapy couch time. A lot of it, believe me. But be the tortoise, not the hare. It's such a profound philosophy, and yet so simple. When you're building relationships, when you're building networks, it's about meaningfulness. So think about the meaning. Think about how much that other person means. Magnify your radness, magnify their radness, and build the relationship. Be the tortoise, not the hare. So to wrap up, to be successful, one must put themselves in the path of giants. You might read that, interpret that as I'm going to put myself in the path of leaders and politicians and these people. But I like to think that actually means you just put yourself in the path of other people, because I believe that everybody is a potential giant. So just put yourself in the path, okay? So be prepared, take initiative. Okay, we talked about that. Be memorable. Okay to laugh at fashion faux pas, they happen. Giant zit on my nose, it's okay. It's on camera forever, fantastic. Be yourself. This was the fist bump factor. We hired a new faculty for our doctor of physical therapy program the other day. And she came over and it was, you want to impress her. She's important to us. She's going to be fantastic for our students. One of limited females in full-time faculty roles, which we're always thrilled about. She came over and she did one of these. And I didn't know what she was going to do. It was that, that moment where you're like, is that going to be a high five, a fist bump, or a handshake? It was totally a high five, and I went for the fist bump. So it was this, right? And it ended up into this. It was, but she laughed, I laughed, and now we have a thing. So now we're like, yeah! So we have this little personal thing. It worked out, doesn't always work out, but it's okay. The funky socks thing, if you know Mayor Curtis from Provo, he's all about funky socks. He's sick of people with no personality too, so he wears ridiculous socks all the time. He's known for that, and it endears him to others. Be yourself, rock your radness. So build your relationships, be the tortoise, not the hare, be confident, be brave, and know your worth. And that's all I have to say about that. Any questions?